All right, I'll call this meeting of the RAC Financial Subcommittee to order. And Jeanette, let's do the roll call.
All right, Asia Philbin.
Here.
Matt Matthewson.
Here.
And Eric, I have you on the line and you are muted and I am unable to unmute you, but you are here and we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Virtual meeting reminders, just ask that everybody mute their computers when they're not speaking during the meeting. And if you want to speak, use the raise your hand feature. And then when called upon, unmute your computer and say your piece, and then lower your hand afterwards and unmute or remute again. Remind the audience people that they will have opportunities during 2 calls to the audience to participate, but otherwise, unless you're called upon by the committee, limit your comments to those periods. And then remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded for open meeting law purposes. And we'll rise for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And anybody have a safety share? I was gonna see if Eric had one. I know he went to Texas to see the eclipse, and I was gonna warn him not to look at the sun, but maybe it was too late, and maybe it didn't matter anyway if it was cloudy.
Well, he can't, I think he does have eye damage. He can't seem to find his unmute button, so he can't see it.
Did you have anything for safety, Jackson?
Yeah, because as I mentioned earlier, I was at the Final Four in Phoenix over the weekend, and Friday through Monday I was in Phoenix. And of course, it's always, everywhere you go, it seems like traffic is crazy. So it's a safety one on traffic, but I can't tell you how many people I saw driving with autopilot. They have those self-driving cars, but more and more vehicles, people on the freeway not holding the steering wheel or anything, they're just cruising along. I saw it a number of times. And then you see when vehicles, their sensors are not refined, I don't feel, because you could see vehicles, jerk in or break in real hard when a semi truck comes up next to them, and just, I think they see their shadow sometimes and react. And I saw a handful of incidents where people weren't really driving their car, and I'm assuming it was an autopilot because it was staying in its lane for the most part, but I did see a lot of weird things. So all I'm going to say, in the new technology age of driving, be extra defensive, because it's not even just people doing things. And you think, hey, the AI of automated driving would, be a little more conservative and safe, but I think it still has some glitches that have to be worked out. So that's my share.
Thank you. Anybody else with a safety share?
Yeah, hey, I do.
Hey, there's Eric.
Okay, yeah. Number one, check on the weather reports before you go someplace to see the total eclipse.
Oops.
It got dark, but it was overcast the whole time.
That's a shame.
So I still have my
safely,
eyesight, which is dangerous.
Yeah, drive safely on your way back, and watch out for those autonomous cars.
It's the autonomous trucks I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? I did have one question about them, and Ellen, I need your help on this. There was a point in the minutes where referred to the 3 pillars. So I was thinking there was 4 pillars, but maybe I'm confused with Jackson's pillars. So just remind us briefly, is 3 the right number for the financial pillars? And maybe just remind us what they are.
Well, with regard to wastewater, and I'm going to have to take my time and walk myself through this, so just give me a second. With regard to the wastewater financial operation, we are looking at 1, maintaining the $50 million of cash, unrestricted cash reserves over and above the other emergency reserves that we have set aside. 2 would be the minimum of 1.3 ratio for the bond rating for our debt. The third one is keeping the life of the debt as low as possible. The county has adopted a pay-as-you-go policy, which is instructive to the entire county to keep the long-term debt limited. We have been actively lowering that. With wastewater, we are at about 10 years. We were trying to lower it further than that, but it wasn't possible given the amount of debt that needed to be issued. So we're hovering around 10, and we'll go up to 15 if and when that Sarita cooperative project takes off, simply because of the amount of debt we're talking about issuing. So those were the 3 that come to mind off the top of my head, and I'm gonna phone a friend. Michelle, did I miss anything?
No, I think you covered it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the
So
one
there-
other one, I guess, that I was recalling was carrying 60 to 65 million in debt service, or and maybe that ties in with the ratio somehow.
It's keeping the level debt service. You are correct. The goal with that is to be able to have predictable and stable look out into the future. If we say we're going to, it's tied to the life of the debt, trying to keep the debt level at between 60 and 65 million, keeping the life of the debt as low as possible around the 10-year mark, the cash, and then the ratio for the rating agencies.
And then the CIP level of 50 million a year, was that not really one of the pillars? Or
well, that seems to be it wasn't a pillar, if you will, for financial stability. The goal with that was a number of years ago, that was set at 40 to 45 million. It seems to be an ongoing increasing dollar amount. It hasn't been at that level of 40 to 45 million, which is what it was set at a number of years ago. It does, however, seem to be relatively stable at the 50 to 55 million. But as Jackson tells us all the time, he has needs.
okay, well, thank you. I apologize for that diversion from really approving the minutes, but I saw that reference in there, and I just wanted to make sure we had the right number. But it says 3. We'll go with that for the current purposes, and I'll invite a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting. And there's Claire.
I'll move to approve.
That's Asia and
Hi, Claire.
anybody.
Hi, I'm having sorry,
That's okay. Would you like to second the motion, Claire?
I'm happy to. I didn't know I was on, I'm trying to, something's happening with my machine here. So I
We hear
apologize.
you.
Dealing with this morning. You can't see me, but you can hear me. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I may have to go out and come back. So I'll try that.
And all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye or raise your hand or,
Aye.
Aye.
very good, we
Aye.
got it. Thank you. And we'll move into discussion and action items and bring Ellen back to the mic.
Okay, so one of the action items that you have is the financial plan. We talked about the financial plan at the last meeting and at the last RWRAC overall committee meeting. What would you, we've gone over this, so I guess my question is, what do you want me to talk about? You've heard me, quite frankly, babble on about this, so I don't want to repeat myself. Your time is very valuable. How would you
Okay.
like forward?
Let me invite questions or comments from our members then, and start with Asia since she has a time limit. Any questions, Asia, for Ellen, or any points that you think we ought to discuss or study further in the plan?
No, I don't have any questions. I think I guess I would like to have a little bit of a discussion around like our kind of final recommendation, what that looks like, but that's
Yeah, well,
all
that's
I have.
a great point. I mean, that's
Everything, I guess.
that's the deliverable from this meeting, is to have an expression of support or some sort of recommendation to the full committee for the plan. Eric, I know you had some questions for Ellen earlier in the week. I don't know whether that loop got closed or whether we ought to address any of those here at this meeting.
Well, I'm not sure. You know, maybe I'm trying to learn too much, or maybe I'm overstating things. But I'd written Ellen, copied you, Matt, on a couple of points that I wanted to bring up. One was with the debt ratio. You was set out that we had the report, the ratings, direct report on the water and sewer for Pima County, and you go through it, and I was surprised by it. It talks very early in the report about the 1.2 ratio. Then then a page over, it goes to 1.3, but even it states that at 1.3, you're not meeting the requirement for a AA rating. So that raised the question to me is, A, what is our bond rating? B, if 1.3 isn't meeting it, what does meet it? And then further is that all that important to be above 1.3? If we slip below 1.3 into the 1.25 or something for a while and then come back up, are we causing any headaches to both the county and to the department? That's where I'll start.
Okay, so let me address what the wastewater sewer obligations rating currently is. As you know, we issued debt last fall. And we had a review by both Fitch and Standard & Poor's in August of 2023. Both of them gave the county a AA rating, which is a very good rating. And
Yeah.
it has been stable for a while. I don't have the details in front of me of how far back that goes. When they do the analysis and we have our ratings call, they ask a number of questions. And some of the things that they focus on, quite frankly, is, and these will all sound very familiar to you, how much cash do you have on hand? How much is set aside in reserves and how much is unreserved cash? What is the life of the debt, the average life of the debt? How much debt do you expect to spend in the next 4 or 5 years? That, of course, is tied directly to the CIP plan. And they look at the ratio. And what they have said is 1.3 is the minimum. Now, what is in the financial plan is when the county was doing voter financed debt, the underlying legal documents had the covenants of that debt stated in it a minimum of 1.2. That is where that 1.2 reference is coming from. Quite frankly, we probably need to eliminate any references to that senior debt since it's no longer in existence and it no longer has any bearing on how we're operating today. We did not eliminate it from the financial plan, the draft that you have in front of you today. But as Eric had raised these questions, Michelle and I had more than one conversation about whether we should, quite frankly, eliminate it from the financial plan. So as long as we are keeping, the $50 million or more in unrestricted cash, the debt ratio of 1.3, the rating agencies seem to be to believe that we have a fiscally sound enterprise that can afford to pay its debt and pay its bills. Therefore, that's the rating that we get. They raised some concerns about other utilities having higher ratios. They seem to be satisfied with the 1.3, which is why I refer to it as a floor. I don't know if that answers your questions, Eric, or if we need to have further conversation. I don't know if that answers all your questions on the ratio and the rating.
No, you've given me a good background there. Thank you very much.
Okay.
It would then appear to me that maintaining a 1.3 and maintaining a sizable reserve, 50 million, are really critical in how the rating agencies look at the sewer district in order to provide us with a favorable bond rating, AA.
Correct.
And I would hope then that somewhere along the line in the near future, I would propose that we have some type of resolution or motion or something that indicates that this is what we're doing and this is why.
Would you like to see that I more clearly defined in the financial plan? I thought it was.
Well, I think you do a pretty good job with it in the financial plan. I'm not fully. See, the funny part is sitting here with the financial plan in one hand and the ratings direct in the other, they seem to conflict a little bit. And so I want to be sure that we all have the same, we're starting from the same starting gate and we're moving towards the same finish line.
Good.
Am I making sense with that?
You are to me.
And me
Okay.
as well. No, they're good observations. Asia, I noticed your hand up for a second there. Is there a lingering question or comment that you have?
No, I think I'm good. I just went back to read something. Sometimes I think I realized that I didn't. I wonder, Ellen, if you could just briefly touch on the impacts of the bond rating, in terms of whether it's interest rates or being able to sell bonds.
Sure, it is actually both. So thank you for asking that question. Maintaining a AA or higher rating, if we were to get a higher rating, does indeed offer us the opportunity to borrow money at a lower rate. Right now, our cost of capital, we're estimating to be at about 5%. If interest rates go up, the cost of capital goes up. Having a higher bond rating, having stable outlooks from the rating agencies affords us the opportunity to ensure that we have enough buyers for our debt and that our interest rates are as low as we can get them. If we were to drop in our rating, it would be my estimation that the interest rate would increase and the cost, thereby increasing the cost of the capital, thereby, lowering the amount of money that wastewater has to spend on its capital project, increasing its overall operational cost by increasing the interest expense, squeezing some of that cash out of the cash reserves. I mean, it all has a ripple effect through the financial statement if you have an adverse impact to your rating.
Eric,
Thank you.
pass it back to you if wasn't sure whether you had additional comments or questions.
Yeah, let me go forward. Ellen, I think it would, in my humble opinion, I think that it would be important to state somewhere within the financial plan that we have a AA rating, and this is exponentially very good for the department and for the county because it provides us with those lower rates of interest that affect the payments and the needs of the department. I'm not sure having all the information about the senior debt that has been paid off and all is as important as it is as we look forward rather than look to the rear.
Okay. If that's the direction of the committee, we can certainly take a look at the draft financial plan because that's what it is. We can certainly make some edits to that to eliminate references to the senior debt and add in its place or in addition to the plan information related to the most recent bond rating, debt rating that we have, and why it's important to maintain that.
Yeah, I can live with 1.3. I've in my other life, my other positions, 1.2 is what we live with. So the conflict was in my mind of, well, this agency is at 1.2, we're at 1.3. That's wonderful. But then when I read the ratings report, and it says that even that doesn't reach a AA rating. I'm thinking, okay, there's a whole bunch of factors that these companies are taking in, and 1.3 is just one small portion of it. I think the fact that the department has continually taken cash and paid down the debt, prepaid on the debt, I think is excellent. I think the fact having a $50 million reserve available is also excellent. And I would surely think that these are very good points to point out to people, whoever reads the financial plan, of how we're moving forward.
I see Claire with her hand up. Question or comment, Claire?
Claire, you're muted.
I'm so sorry. Thought I'd hit that. On Appendix E, page 20, it actually talks about that 1.3, the issues with going below a 1.3 debt ratio. Is that sufficient for you, Eric?
Yeah, that's fine.
Talks about a 1.2. So I'm not sure any edits are needed. If this meets your need, or maybe you would like something a little more explicit in there.
Well, maybe I'm being too critical. All I'm trying to do is say, I'm more forward looking. I don't look in the rearview mirror a lot. I take what we've learned in the past and try to move it forward. And so I look at the financial plan and I look more of it as a forward looking document than a rearward looking document. And so when you talk about the senior debt, it's been paid off and all of that, I'm not as sure as that's as critically needs to be in the document as the forward looking is, that, hey, we're going to maintain a 1.3 or better. That maintains our AAA bond rating with the other items that we take into account, i.e. the $50 million cash reserve, those prepayment of some of our debt every year. Those are important aspects that I just see as being forward-looking as we plan to the future, so that as people look at this document, they come away with a very good impression that this is a very fiscally responsible group. They're looking forward and they're taking advantage of the position they have now to move the district or their department forward and maintain a high quality in their bond rating.
I have
Go
no
ahead.
problem with, I have no problem with adding some language, but I rather like the fact that it has a rearward looking aspect to it, just because I think it shows a consistency. But I do think that this Appendix E does explain the debt. So I think it could be just an addition of some forward language, as Eric recommends, but I don't really think it needs to remove the rearward looking language. That's just my opinion.
I guess my thought is that for this year, it's probably not a critically sensitive issue, since there is no rate increase. We are pretty comfortable with where the financial picture is right now and for the next year. I guess my thought would be maybe work over the course of the next few months towards making some changes between what this year's financial plan looks like and next year's, to kind of be able to tee up the rate increase proposal a little better or a little more strongly. next year, and then not make a lot of changes this year to put in the lap of the full committee, at a time when we're really looking for them to be able to approve the financial plan at the next meeting, I think.
I'm in agreement with that, Matt.
Yeah, the one, I guess one thing that seems kind of major to me is, those references to the 2017 policy or resolution that the committee had. I'm referring back to page 11 of the plan, where it refers to our November 16th, 2017 meeting, and it talks about not triggering discussions about possible rate increases unless the ratio gets below 1.2 or the cash reserve, unrestricted cash reserves get below 25 million. And so we're in this current discussion talking about really making a change to that, where the current pillars would want us having the ratio at 1.3 and the cash reserves at 50 million. And so I'm wondering if maybe in the course of the next few months we could bring this issue back to the full committee for, so we're in good solid shape for these discussions next year. And if next year's financial plan then has, instead of that particular paragraph that I was just referring to, it has triggers at 1.3 and 50 million, or thereabouts, however we would want to word it. We've certainly got time to engage in those pretty significant policy level discussions, and not have to put the current financial plan on any type of hold pending discussions that really aren't going to matter until next year anyway. So that's just kind of my thought, listening to the comments and considering what we've talked about. And I guess, maybe hearkening back to Ellen, to your discussion of the pillars earlier, I think that it would be good to really have something in writing that clearly states what these policy pillars are, and have the committee buy into them and approve them. I think that is consistent with our that role would be consistent with the ordinance that gives us our charter as the official body that has responsibility for rate structure formulation with county government, the very first item in our charter. So some pretty significant issues, I think, on the table here, but not ones that I feel we need to resolve prior to this year's plan. And so I might open it back up for discussion, both with the committee members and staff, about the comfort level between where the current draft is for this year's purposes and where a future draft might be for next year's purposes.
I'm fine with that. This is Eric.
So Matt, from a process standpoint, finance can certainly draft I guess it would be a memo to the subcommittee outlining the financial pillars that we use for helping to manage the wastewater enterprise and the factors that we look at for the subcommittee's, review and consensus with. We can certainly do that. That's not a problem. We can do that in relative short order, depending on when your next subcommittee meeting is. I would prefer not to do something for May because I'm trying to get the county's budget out, but certainly we could do something in the early summer. If we have a meeting in June or in August, certainly having that before the subcommittee would be easy enough for us to do.
Yeah, I think that would be handy, and maybe fold into that, the comparison of policies with the November 2017 policy statements, and explaining why, if and why we should make changes to the policy we established back then. And your timing, I think, is fine. There, as I say, I don't feel a rush, and being able to defer something like this for you to a later point, since this is a pretty busy time for you guys anyway. I think that would fit fine, and give us the chance to revisit some of these issues down the road, and we'll have our new subcommittee member with us for those meetings, and be able to let the rest of the committee members know, full committee members know where we're headed, and give them the opportunity to weigh in as well, because I'm sure several of them who were here in 2017 will wonder why policy that was stated then isn't good enough now. So in a long way, I say yes to what you propose.
Okay, so I'll do that. The other thing too, I'll include in the memo is the county. The county made some significant policy decisions that impact wastewater. The board adopted the PAYGO plan. That impacts and informs some of these pillars. So I'll be happy to include that in that as well.
Yeah, I think anything that has risen to a level of board approval is certainly extremely important for us to know about. And then if there's other policies that have risen to county administrator approval level versus finance director approval level, then we probably should know that as well. And we don't want to step on toes, but we want to fulfill our obligation to the board under our ordinance.
So I'll be happy to go ahead and do that for, as I said, if not the next subcommittee meeting, the one after that. Are there any other questions or changes you would like to include in the current financial plan so that it can be approved at the next RWRAC committee?
I had one more question, if I may.
Sure.
And really, this probably goes to Jackson rather than Ellen. With the exorbitant price to move the Canoa Ranch extension line of the wastewater line, is there a plan to leave the current estimated numbers in the CIP? Or are you looking to move that out or change it into another project up ahead?
Hey, Eric, yeah, what we're doing right now is we are going to go out for bid just to make sure that the extremely high bid by our perspective is not contractor related. You know, sometimes contractors, I'm sure you're well aware that, you know, they're happy to do any job, but sometimes they're too busy or for whatever reason, a job is not one that they want to pursue. And so they increase the price significantly because they don't want to do it for whatever that reason. But they'll go ahead and do it if you pay that super high price, because they'd be silly not to. But we think they have some things going on that may have contributed to the increased pricing beyond what would have been expected. And so we're just double checking and in the process of going out for bid with other contractors for that job. So it's still a possibility. I don't think it'll be the $9 million we have in our CIP, but let's say it's 12 or 13 million, maybe we would still want to do it. But if it comes in 20 to 30 million, there's no way, it just doesn't make sense to do it. And we'd go with a plan B and put in a pump station, have the developer put in a pump station over there and just have Canoa Ranch RV Park tie in. They'd have to extend their sewer line north further. So it's a little more cost to get sewer service to an RV park over there. But all those things have a plan B option, but they're not burdening our ratepayer with some astronomical cost to put in, you know, that pipeline. So we will leave it there for now until those bids are complete, and then we will adjust it accordingly and make sure it still fits in with all our financial plans. But if it gets up above, I'm guessing, you know, this is just my opinion, but let's say around 13 million, we will probably remove it from CIP. And we have many other issues ready to take better use of that money, you know, that our ratepayers contribute. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Ellen, I don't have any issue with the current financial plan draft, so I'm comfortable with what's in there. Looking forward, I do I'm pleased that we're able to have some detailed discussions on the basic pillar concepts, and something that two things would help me in the going forward part. One, you know, I'd like to see what the ratios come out as for the next 5 years without the rate increase, just to see where those ratios would fall without the 1.75, how close we are to 1.3 at that point. And then the other thing I'd like to see, you provided the Standard & Poor's ratings report. Could we also see the Fitch report that's available?
Certainly, we can get, in fact, I pulled up so the S&P and the Fitch report are, it was published as part of a memo to the board on August the 29th, 2023. I will send that to Jeanette and she can share it.
Super, thank you.
Hey,
and again,
Matt?
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
The report that was sent to us, Ratings Direct, it, I believe, has both the Standard & Poor and the Fitch rating in that.
It does, but I'll just send it to Jeanette so she can send it to the entire group, so everybody can have.
Okay, great, thank you. And let me just make sure any other comments or concerns or questions about the current draft proposal prior to having a motion to provide support to it. Or actually, I'd take a motion, then we can have discussion on it.
Matt, I would move that we accept the 2024 financial plan for the Regional Wastewater Reclamation Enterprise Fund and pass that to the full committee for their approval.
Thank you, Eric. Do I have a second?
I'll second that,
Thanks, Claire.
Claire.
And any further discussion on the motion?
No, I like the idea that we're going to look at potentially August to sit down and have a really good discussion regarding the 4 pillars, the 3 pillars, whatever they are, along with some of the forward-looking thought process we can use to enhance the department for the future.
Good. Asia, any last words before we get to a vote and you have to sign off?
Good timing. I'm in agreement with what's been said so far, so I don't really have
Okay,
anything
well
to add.
then, all in favor of approving Eric's motion, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Very good. I got us all. Thank you. And then with that, our meeting schedule. Yeah, I think we can handle this in a comfortable way for the staff. And Eric mentioned an August meeting. I think that's soon enough. And if we have to then meet another time or two after that, before the 25 draft financial plan comes out, I think that gives us sufficient time. So we can consider that tentative at this point and work with the staff and our subcommittee members to come up with a good date for that next meeting and discussion. Does that sound okay?
I'm good.
And
Sounds good, Matt.
realizing I just missed the call to the audience the first time around, I'll invite a call to the audience at this point. If there's any comment or questions for the committee from other participants. Hearing none. Any other final comments from either committee members or staff prior to adjournment? And hearing none there, I'll invite a motion for adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Thanks, Claire. And a second.
Second.
Thank you. And Asia, we got you 3 minutes to spare.
Sounds good.
Meeting, all in favor of adjournment, and thank you all for your participation today and doing the significant homework that was required for this meeting.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.